Okay, so this is about 3 adaptations of the same children's story. It's called Chuumon no Ooi Ryouriten, or A Well-Ordered Restaurant, but let's shorten that to just Chuumon. There are several more adaptations of this story, but I want to cover just the anime adaptations. Since it's likely you've never seen any of them, I want to introduce you the same way they introduced themselves. To start, here's the first 30 seconds from 1993. Alright, turning back the clock 35 years, here's the first 30 seconds from 1958. Okay, and since this is clearly in order of my least favorite to favorite, here's 1991. This version is my favorite horror anime, but as much as I want to gush just about this one, I think discussing the other two would be interesting and important. Without even telling you the story, the way each of these adaptations look gives you everything you need to know about how they tell it. Chuumon 93 has brightly lit backgrounds, rounded cartoony character designs, saturated colors, and slow, simple animation. The word I want to use is mediocre, but it's fairer to consider it safe. Nothing is outright poor, but it doesn't stand out or catch your eye. This is diametric to Chuumon 91, which is unlike anything I've ever seen in animation. The whole thing looks like an engraving, with textured illustrative backgrounds and characters that blend almost perfectly into them. The palette is mostly sepia toned with earthy browns and greens and blacks, but also has select objects of bright color that eerily pop out at you. And the way it all moves varies from fast and meticulously detailed to slow and nuanced, sometimes with after images, which makes it all the more spooky. Director Tadanori Okamoto was a genius animator who tragically passed away before Chuumon 91 was finished, but what a remarkable piece to go out on. That's not to completely ignore Chuumon 58, which rests comfortably in the middle of this lineup. It uses puppet animation that considerably shows its age sometimes, but the rough quality can be quite charming too, with a mixed bag of quality, evocative shots and pretty silly looking moments. Existing in black and white can be a handicap if you don't apply proper use of lighting and shadow, and I think Chuumon 58 executes itself well within these constraints. But just as important as how everything looks is how everything sounds, and that's where I think Chuumon 91 sets itself apart the most. There's no dialogue. None. Even Angel's Egg, which has noticeably little dialogue, still has a little. The most you get in 91 are these signs at various entrances that lure the hunters further and further into the restaurant. That's the case in the other shorts too, except the characters have to also read the signs out loud, and then continue to talk about their circumstances. These hunters are quite the chatterboxes, and they're written that way in the original story too, but the dialogue is not particularly thought-provoking or funny or clearly necessary if it could just be taken out entirely. Chuumon 91 lets the hunters' actions speak for themselves, which engages the audience's attention when there's so many small gestures and subtle facial expressions. I love this moment where the sign tells them to tidy their hair and clean the mud off their shoes, and instead of talking about how much that makes sense, it cuts to this. Chuumon 93 is practically verbatim to the story and sounds so forced and corny, like it's holding your hand in an already easy to follow story. They sometimes don't talk to each other, but instead literally to the audience, which is totally immersion breaking. The hunters also talk in Chuumon 58, but they at least sound conversational, like two friends chumming it up during a strange situation together. It still lightens the mood by being there, which dampens the tension and foreboding tone for me. And it occupies space that Chuumon 91 fills not with dialogue, but impeccable sound design. The echo of the dogs and birds make this forest seem so endless and foreign. The crunching of grass and wind blowing through the leaves are gritty and treacherous. And there's no music at all for 3 whole minutes until this moment. The music in the other 2 shorts are okay, but the genius of Chuumon 91's soundtrack is how they use it in brief, specific moments, not just generically throughout the whole short. 6 of the 9 unique tracks are diegetically integrated either by radio or as if somebody off screen is playing it and the characters can hear it. If you choose to go without dialogue, the rest of your short better sound damn good. And Chuumon 91 sounds damn good. At this point, I hope I've sold you on Chuumon 91 and you'll check it out for yourself. And I implore you to do that before watching further because I'm about to discuss the story and I think it will spoil you to the experience. I strongly encourage you to watch it blind. And I know you've heard that hundreds of times in other videos, and this can't possibly stop you from watching the rest of what I have to say, but I love this short so much I'd hate to ruin it for you. So please, only watch further if you've seen it. I would link it directly to you to make it easier, but I don't want to get into trouble. Thank you for stopping by.